Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us for episode 42 of Cage Side Convos. I'm Rick.
And this is Quince.
And we're coming to you guys live, as almost always, here from American Top Team right in Watertown.
Right.
Before we get rolling with the convo, I want to give a quick shout out to our local sponsor, the Farm to Table Company. It's a local company started in the Syracuse, New York area, and their goal is to take local farmers or smaller farms that have products and connect them directly to the people that need the products, kind of eliminate the middleman. If you would like more information about the Farm to Table Company, we will link to them in the comment section on the Facebook page as well as the YouTube channel. And you can check them out at f2tco.com. So that's f2tco.com. Farm to Table Company.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, so Quince, it's been a while, man.
It's been more than a while, man. It's been a minute.
It's been months, man.
You know, we haven't shot a video in the building in, I would say, a couple months.
Yeah.
Is it something like that?
Yeah, it's been a while. Life's been hectic.
Hectic, busy, and forever changing. And I guess I just speak for myself in all good ways, you know, in a whole bunch of different directions, but all good ways. In all good things, and it's good to be back. So we actually got the chance to chat for a little bit. It was nothing on camera, but I had you into the studio over at Tunes.
Yeah.
And which I guess is another change. I'm out at Tunes now from 2 to 6 p.m.
Don't gloss over that. That's a pretty cool thing that happened.
Very, very cool thing. Nothing. It wasn't necessarily intended. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it was well fit as far as what their purpose is, you know, music, community, and outreach. And, you know, as far as my individual purpose, very much the same.
Yeah.
And so I saw it as an opportunity, and every day I enjoy it and appreciate it more and more.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
And for the very reason, I mean, first and foremost, I'm surrounded by music all day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, all afternoon at least. But I appreciate it once I'm learning how to utilize the position, you know, even being able to reach out to my friends, you know, who are musicians or own their own business or a part of larger community organizations, give them a call and say, hey, come on, you know, hop on air. And I was able to do that with you. You came on air, and I think it was just last week, and we chatted for a bit. And I say that lightly. We, you know, we kind of got into our on-air interview, and usually, you know, you want to keep it to, because people's attention spans on air. You want to keep it to like, you know, 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. And before I knew it, it's, you know, we're at 10 minutes. Yeah, we're at 10 minutes. And I'm like, shit, you know, we're so accustomed to just sitting down here, hitting play on the camera, and just letting it roll, and then we just keep going and going and letting the conversation form. And so it was a different, you know, I had to be in a different mind frame to kind of, I had to go and cut off like 3 minutes. I went in editing and cut off like 3 minutes of it, you know. It still sounded, you know, it was still on point, which is cool. But even after the interview, we spoke for another half an hour, 40 minutes.
Easily,
you know, just chatting in the studio, and I was like, God damn, I missed this.
Yeah, man.
You know, and that's when this, the concept that we're going to be talking about today, struck me. You know, because I'm like, I missed this. I can't wait to get back here. I can't wait to be doing exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how many days, how many months, I felt the opposite. You know, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get in front of a camera today.
Yeah.
I got to knock out all my talking points. I have to be on point. I can't fuck it up. I can't this and that, you know? So there was a lot of apprehension coming into this. But now it's just the opposite. I'm ecstatic, you know what I mean? I'm a little hungover, but nonetheless, I still felt, you know, I was like, I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to listen and learn. I can't wait to, you know, and that's a perfect example of, you know, some of the telltale signs of progression, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure.
And as all of our good topics, it seemed to come naturally.
Sure.
And it just feels like now's the time. I mean, it's rather abstract, because it's going to be different for everybody. That's why I do want to be able to differentiate right from the bat, right off the jump. We're not, progression and success are different.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because success is, number one, individually defined. And I think if we've come to learn anything from what we do here, is success is to the individual. Everyone interprets it differently. Everyone is allowed to interpret it differently.
Monty Swollen jumping on. What's up, brother? How you
what
doing?
up, dude? What up, man? So I don't really want to focus too much on success today. Progression, though, is, I think, an important thing to be aware of, because with progression, and if you don't feel that you are progressing, if you don't feel that what you're doing is amounting to anything, is providing growth, change, if you're not recognizing these things, what's the first thing that, what's your first reaction to that?
You quit.
Quit. You give up and you stop what you're doing. So that's what we are trying to avoid. We are looking to become more aware of what progression looks like and feels like to stay away from that thought or that feeling of quitting or stopping.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I think that's why it's important today. Whether you wanted to add on to any of that intro part, or I could just jump into number one for me.
Yeah, I'll add on a little bit real quick.
Yeah.
Monty just chimed in. He said progress leads to success, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of the point you were making, and we've talked before about a goal-oriented mindset. We've talked about what constitutes success, in previous episodes and previous conversations and stuff. But sometimes when we think about success or we think about goals, the way I visualize it is a checklist. And once we hit a goal, it's a check mark. Right? Once we achieve success, it's a check mark. Right? One of my favorite things ever. I was listening to Coach Trevor Whitman talk about the mindset of a champion, right? And what he said was that when you reach your goals, the view doesn't change. Nothing changes. He talks about when you come, for the line of work he's in, when you become UFC champion, nothing's different.
Right.
Like you have a belt, sure, but if you put all your stock in the goal, in the success, or in the outcome, you lose sight of the importance of progress.
Right.
And I think that's why it's so important that we understand what to look for progress, or what to understand. Okay, well, no, I'm not getting to this goal yet, but am I on my way there?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And for me, there's the metaphors for martial arts are so easy here. And I'll let you kind of go with your number one point that you were getting into, and then I think it's going to weave pretty effortlessly into some of the stuff I've been thinking about.
Okay.
As these things predictably do with us,
Right. Predictably, like chaos, order.
Hey.
Before we hopped on here, we
for
spent a half an hour talking in a different direction at length, and we had to reel it back in and kind of refocus ourselves on the moment. And yeah, I 100% agree. Progression is, allows us to be aimed in the direction of success. But success itself, it's fluid. Right. It's forever changing as far as definition, because once you get the belt, what's success now? Right. Is it keeping the belt? Is it getting another belt? Right. Is it maintaining it? Whatever,
or is it continuing to progress?
Right. Boom. So one of the first telltale signs of progression for me, and this one is probably my favorite, and it's one of the first things that I noticed, and one of the first signs for me that I was going in the right direction was that you start to interpret the world through your craft, or through your work, or through your art, or through your purpose. You start to interpret the world through your craft. And I guess this is what I mean by that. Any conversation, whether it's with a loved one, whether it's with a stranger, any interaction, reaction, any experience, whether it's joy, pain, fear, love, all of these things, you start to interpret it through your craft. And I guess I'm speaking for myself, but I find myself thinking, I'm like, oh, how does this moment, feeling, reaction, how can I communicate that? How does it make me better at what I am doing? How can I add this in my music or my writing? What can I learn from this? And it could be the most menial things. It could be the littlest, most subtle instances in life, conversations, but like, what do I have to learn, gain, share? How could I put this into my art? And so I was doing this without knowing that I was doing it as a natural progression to my work, because I loved what I was doing. I loved that I was like, damn, for whatever reason, music or writing, it not only comes naturally, but the work towards it didn't feel like work, and I enjoyed it. So like, no matter what, I was gonna do it. But then I started noticing that I was interested in the world. I was interested in so many different things, I'm reading, all about relativism, you know what I mean? I'm jumping into philosophy. I'm reading about the pyramids in Egypt and the history of the world. All this shit that never crossed my mind. I wanted to know how the mind worked, and which still fascinates me to this day. Before my understanding of purpose, I didn't give a fuck. I wouldn't think about none of this stuff crossed my mind. Oh, how my intention, how I reacted to a moment. How does that affect my future self? How does that affect the people around me? That shit never crossed my mind.
Right. Until
Until I understood what it was that I wanted to do, or that I was here to do, or however you interpret that. But all of these things, when I was able to look back and notice that mindset, that my whole mindset changed, I was like, well, shit, that's progression.
Right.
I didn't plan on that.
Right.
That naturally happens.
Right.
Is there any way that did something like that happen for you?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think one of the notes I wrote down is just kind of, wow, I just did that.
Right.
That's a thought that kind of pops in your head once in a while. Where I think is a telltale. So it's a telltale sign, but it's also a surprising sign of progress, right? If we could feel like we're stagnating or whatever, and then all of a sudden, whether you're having a conversation and you find that, so I classify them as knee-jerk reactions, right? So our subconscious reaction in a situation, once we have that recognition, whether you're in conversation or day-to-day life or something something that we could perceive as negative happens, and immediately think, okay, what good am I going to extract from this? Or like you said, how can I tie this back into my art? And once I realized that my knee-jerk reaction was becoming less and less and less to react to the emotional response, once I realized that something that would normally anger me, I was just like, okay, why is this happening? And I was like, holy shit, wow, like that was my knee-jerk reaction. That was my practice, that was my trained reaction to that. So all the work that I'm doing is progressing. I am progressing, it's working, right? The work that I'm doing is working, right? And so again, the metaphor of martial arts is when you're training, and say you're boxing, and you've been working on head movement, you're working on slipping punches and stuff, and you're sparring, and you're getting hit, and it's 6 weeks later, and all of a sudden you're sparring, all of a sudden boom, 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 slip, slip, roll, and then you counter punch, you're like, holy shit, like I just did that.
Right.
I was working and working and working and working every single day, and then all of a sudden I did it.
Right.
And that's a huge sign of progress.
Sure.
You don't have to actively think about what you're doing. You don't have to categorize everything. You don't have to step by step do it. It's becoming your knee-jerk reaction is the thing that you're striving towards.
Sure.
And it's huge.
Yeah, that's a big moment. And and even when you say all of a sudden that happened,
right?
It's not. It's taken away from the actual work that's in between. The awareness that nothing's happening and boom, that wow knee-jerk moment. Right. Yeah, 100% right. And though, you know, and stuff like that makes it easy.
Yeah.
You know, when you get that when you get that wow moment, it makes it easy to recognize what progression feels like, what it looks like, and all those things. But certainly leading up to that is more difficult when you're still getting hit. You're like, why am I still getting hit? You know what I mean?
But that's, you know, right there. One of the biggest things I talk to my students about, my training partners about, is probably my favorite quote that I've had to tell myself so many times too, is that you can't train every day, or you can't work every day and not get better.
Right.
It's impossible. You can't put in the work every single day and not get better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we need to understand these signs of progress, because it's hard to work every single day and not notice that you're getting better.
Sure.
But when you're, you know, if you're in here and you're training with the same training partners every single day, or you're having the same conversations with the exact same people, and that's your only sounding board for whether or not you're getting better. Because when you're training, not like I'm working on new things, but you're working on ways to shut down the new things that I'm doing. You know what I mean? In jiu-jitsu, if you're working on specific movements from a specific position, for those of you who train, you know, if I'm working on setting something up for mount, the person on bottom is also learning how to defend exactly what I'm doing. And if we're training together every single day, nothing feels like it's progressing.
Right.
Until you take those practice skills and you practice with somebody else.
Sure.
You know, so
Sure.
But the same thing, you and I have conversations all the time, and while intrinsically I think we know that there's value to the conversations we have, the biggest way that I know that I'm progressing is when I have a conversation with somebody outside of this environment, and my knee-jerk reaction is to start talking about philosophy, start talking about life, or one big thing for me is I actually have started shutting up a little bit more and listening and being more receptive to information that's coming in, and realize that I can learn so much more that way. So when my reaction now, when somebody starts talking, my reaction is starting to be to actually shut up and not think about what I'm going to say and just receive the information. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm progressing. You know?
Yeah, that's huge. I just finished a book, that Progress book, or Process, the Process book that he gave me, and it was all about a group of what do you call them?
Improvisers.
Yeah, improvisers. Sure. They were actors, but they took a improvisational class. They kind of changed their outlook on life. You know, certainly on acting, but on life itself. And it had everything to do with that, with really being in the moment. You know, the mind is so prone to anticipating or predicting in ways that that'll protect us. You know, in the frame of survival. You know, you can understand where that comes from. But how freeing it is to truly be in the moment, to truly react to the situation is, I mean, everything that a lot of what I strive to work toward. You know what I mean? Whether it's freestyling, whether it's music or writing or getting lost in something, you know, being in a moment, defining a moment, creating a moment, can only truly be done, you know, if you allow yourself the ability, you know, to embrace that. Who the fuck knows what's gonna happen, you know, to embrace that chaos. And so a lot of what you're saying is reflecting from that book. You know, which I love. And you can take that, just like you said, you don't recognize what the skill is or what the progression is until you put yourself in a different situation.
Right.
And that's a great point to make.
Right.
You know, I do a lot where, you know, I'm constantly, you know, if I'm not putting out songs, if I'm not putting out music, trust me, I'm making music. Yeah. You know, everything I'm doing is I'm writing music right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the interactions, or, you know, going off to tunes and doing what I need to do there and doing it the best of my ability continually, or my relationships at home, doing that to the best of my ability. Like, this all translates into the song. When I do get that moment to sit down to write, the song is already written. It's made. Yeah. So, I don't know if I'm straying a little bit from your point, but I'm saying on a day-to-day, it might not look like to you that I'm progressing musically
Right.
or as an artist.
Right.
But if you take me right now as I am and put me on the stage,
Yeah.
it's over.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I'll do it better than I did yesterday.
Right.
And without you being like, well, shit, I didn't even see him practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't see him go through the lines or anything.
Yeah.
Like, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's a huge point to make. You know, taking yourself outside of the environment just for a little bit,
Yeah.
placing yourself elsewhere. Great way to check that progression or to measure that progression.
Absolutely. So it's what I categorize kind of as pressure testing, our technique, right? Every once in a while, you know, the biggest thing on the mats when you're training is always take care of your partners. You know, obviously you don't want to hurt your training partners and stuff. You want to make sure that they're gonna, you know, come back the next day and train so you can keep progressing together. But every once in a while, you need to just go for it. You know, and you need, and when you spar, you need to spar hard because you need to see where did I progress, what's working, what's not working, or what do I need to go back and work on.
Yes.
And I mean, that's the equivalent of when you're an artist getting on the stage and performing. That's your pressure test. Are you going to make the same mistakes you made last time? Are you going to perform better? Are you going to interact with the crowd better? Are you going to elicit a response? You know, what things that you've been working on, are they working now?
Right.
And you need to try it in a more chaotic environment, in a more, you know, more real environment.
Yes.
You know, and that's when you look back on that. You know, a lot of times, you know, we've talked about before flow state and stuff like that. You don't remember what you do. And that's why, you know, you look back at video and you see that and you think, wow, I did that. I didn't even think about doing it as I was just there, and that's what I've been working on. That's what I've been striving towards. You know, but a lot of our measure of progress can come from pressure testing ourselves.
Right.
And a lot of, you know, sometimes we shy away from conflict and we seek comfort, right?
Sure.
And in that comfort, we'll never know where our true strengths are. We can hypothesize all we want, but we're not going to know if we're really progressing until we put that pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
No, absolutely. You know, it's you know, for example, with music, if I show it to the same, you know, 3 friends, and they're all like, yeah, it's cool, it's cool. Yeah. You know, it's like my mom. You know, if I make a song, something like that, she's like, oh my God, that's the best song ever. You know what I mean? Which is awesome. And
what's that? You know, your quote: "Validation is a blessing until it becomes a burden."
Until it becomes a burden.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and just a quick recap of that. You know, it's you know, to seek validation is natural, it's normal, and it's needed to kind of get your grounding. You know, to know where you stand. But if you continually seek that same validation, then you stay within that box.
Yeah.
You know, you're no longer growing. You stay within the confines of their interpretation of it.
And maybe that's a sign of progress right there too, is once you get past the point of feeling like you need validation, of feeling like you need that crutch, and just, I think what happens is you become willing to accept criticism, willing to accept weaknesses in yourself, not because it's a negative, but because it's somewhere you can look to work. And I think a sign of progress is actively looking for things to work on.
For sure.
You know, actively seeking out work.
Yeah.
And once you get past that validation, when you have people that are going to bring criticisms to you, then you say, okay, it's not because I'm insufficient, it's because I have more work to do, and I'm excited now because I know where I can focus my efforts and where I can actively work to see progress.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. You know, and just like you said, it comes from that pressure testing.
Yeah.
At different points and different levels, to where you wean out, you know, what you still need to work on, or maybe what you did differently, what you did better, and the things that you can capitalize on. Because there's a lot of stuff that you can't teach. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, when people say, "Oh, he's a natural," you know, and what was that? How to blow a perfect spit bubble floating in the air? What the fuck?
Oh man,
It's been a minute, guys. Bear with
we're
us,
gonna have
man.
to progress through this conversation. You're gonna have to refocus. Chasing dust bunnies around.
No, it was like it was a spit bubble. It was crazy. But you know, there are certain things, like you said, or you know, for me on stage, sometimes you can't teach how to react to the energy of a crowd. You know what I mean? You can only learn yourself through that journey and get better at it in that way. So I'll transition real quick. We were talking a little bit about taking ourselves out of the environment and placing us in other environments, or surrounding ourselves with other individuals. I think telltale sign number 2 of progression, and this is an easy one to notice, and it might take a little bit of time, but your social circle changes.
Oh, big
Your
time.
social circle changes. So there are so many quotes about, you know, how you can, what you can say of yourself by the company that you keep around you, or what other people, how other people see you, depending on the company you keep around you. And to a certain extent, you know, that could be shallow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be shallow. You know, people don't really know the what connects individuals. But at a deeper extent, I think there's a lot of truth in it.
Big time.
I mean, you've got day one, right? And it means one thing. It means a couple things. But people speak a lot about day ones. Right. You know, they say, you know, in music, you know, no new friends, or, you know, my day ones are coming with me, and this and that. And I respect that, and I understand that. And certainly in the ideal world, that is the case.
Sure.
But in reality, the truth is, if you are not, if the people around you are not changing at the rate that you are changing, that's the first thing that becomes apparent. So you all your people got to be changing at the same time, and it's not like you always have to go in the same direction, but you do need forward movement from the people around you, because it's so easy to slip back in routines of nothingness or routines of sameness, same conversations, same fucking bar that you go to, and listening to the same music on the jukebox, and it's a comfort.
Yeah, big time.
And it's a comfort,
Big time.
but it's a hindrance, because as they say, you know, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Big
There's
time.
no real standing still.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and this has been a difficult one for me, because loyalty is important.
Sure.
You know, loyalty is important. But, you know, you have to be, and I don't want to come off disingenuous, but you have to be loyal to yourself first.
Sure.
You have to be loyal to your cause and your purpose and just to you, before you can be loyal to anybody else. And people have to respect that, you know, because loyalty moves in both ways.
Sure.
So, you know, friends have to understand, friends, family as well.
Yeah.
They have to understand your change. They have to understand your intent and your purpose. They don't have to agree with it, you know what I mean?
Right.
You don't have to be the same people,
Right.
but you have to respect that growth, that working towards growth, and that allowance to change.
Yeah.
Because if you know, back when I was fucking up, you know, if the people that knew me then kept me to that, they defined me and they spoke to me in the same ways, you know, and reacted to me as if I was then, how you escape that?
Yeah.
You can't get out of that.
Yeah.
So then you start to react in the same patterns.
Yeah.
So, so getting back to where I started, your social circle changes.
Yeah.
Because your work changes, your conversation changes, and your purpose changes. So I now connect with people whose work has changed them,
Right.
who conversate differently, who understand their interaction, reaction within the world around them. And like, that's the shit I hear now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I recognize. That's how we got here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Separate individuals working their way forward and through different directions. I mean, you're by all means an artist in your own right in multiple ways. So there are similarities, but we're not necessarily on the same path. But
Right.
we're certainly going in the same direction.
Right. I mean, they say that, you know, we talk all the time, you don't have to be on the same path to have the same goal. The same goal is progress.
Right. That's it. That's it.
Interesting, a couple of things that I had written down that you touched on there, recognizing old habits and new connections. And absolutely, I think, so kind of like you were talking about, if you're hanging around the same people, you're doing the same exact things, if once you start to progress and kind of grow beyond that, and you desire something new, I think a huge sign of progress is recognizing the tendency to fall back into old habits, because everybody's prone to it, and you and I are certainly not above reproach in regards to the topic of falling back into old cycles. And,
Right.
and fuck, man, like you said, I mean, we were just talking today about both of our like recent kind of hangover stories or drinking binges. You know what I mean? I definitively have struggled with alcoholism before. I had to completely quit drinking for I think about 13 months, and that's how you know it was alcoholism, because I know how many months I quit drinking. Right?
Right.
So I've struggled with alcoholism, but have found, you know, through that path of self-discovery, I recognize what my habits are. So now I can go drink, I can get hammered and be hungover, but the next day I recognize that if I continue drinking, then I'm going to fall back into an old habit. So I just endure the hangover, let it subside, and then, you know, and then it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks till I drink again. I don't think twice about it, you know, but I can recognize that old habit. And for me, that's a sign of progress, of saying, okay, if I do this, you know, there are certain things, you know, if I drink to ease the hangover, then I'm prone to binging. And I had a lot of fun binge drinking and just being drunk for 3, 4, 5 days, you know. But again, it's a pattern. So a sign of progress in learning to understand and cope with my alcoholism is not cope with, but deal with it productively, is knowing that that's an old pattern that I can get into, that I'm prone to, and avoiding that. But a lot of what helps me do that as well is the new connections that I've developed along the way. And what's interesting is you and I, you know, we've been friends for 5, 6 years, you know, and for the first part of that, it was kind of acquaintances and stuff. We always, you know, enjoyed each other's company, and so to a certain extent we've been connected. But through the past couple of years, especially since we've started doing this together, the connection itself has changed and has become, with the same person, a new connection, a different connection. And fast forward 5 years down the line, you know, maybe we're not sitting here doing this. Maybe maybe there's distance. Any myriad things can happen, but the connection will shift and shape. And I trust that we both stay on the forward path of progress. It will still be there, albeit in a potentially different manner. And I think that speaks to, like you were saying, how your circle, either your circle is changing with you, or you have to change your social circle. Right. You know. And then some of the connections that have started establishing themselves for you is like Tunes 92.5, you know, working with those guys. And then for me, JP doing the anti-violence engagements and speaking engagements. And through that, we got to meet Robert Drummond, who was on the program, the last episode that we did. And then me talking like a 75, next week on the program, we're going to have. But yeah, so I think, you know, opportunities present themselves, connections present themselves. And the more we focus on simply progressing, I think one of the signs that we're moving forward are the fact that we get opportunities to have more enriching discussions, more enriching engagements, you know, to a certain extent, you know, more lucrative opportunities to present ourselves as artists. I mean, you have a job as a radio DJ right now, and that's pretty fucking cool. You know what I mean?
Cooler and cooler as the days go, you know, to my understanding, you know, because everyone that comes in there is in there for a reason. Yeah. Everyone that comes in there has a purpose, and oftentimes, you know, because it's Tunes, it's very community oriented, you know, and it's not just music. Music is the platform in which we reach people, and now what do we do with that platform? The same thing we do with Hold On Upstate, man. It started because we had the opportunity, we had the attention, we had the ear through music. So what are we gonna do if people are listening? And so, you know, everything is community, everything. And so the people that come in, like shit, I just spoke with had a radio interview with the CEO of United Way. And this is a busy, is a busy dude, you know? And, you know, they had this big town hall style event, and they had, you know, someone well known that was speaking at it, and this was something that the local United Way had put on, and it was a big fucking deal. It was a big deal. And I was talking with this dude, and it was just over the phone. I had never met him before, but you don't fall into that position. You don't. It's not an accident that you end up at that position. The CEO of anything, let alone a thriving nonprofit organization in a place where it's hard to make a profit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So these are hardworking individuals. These are intelligent individuals. We're not the same life, you know what I mean? Didn't come up in the same way, but you're there. And you find yourself there, and the conversation, you're right, is just enriching. You know, we talked a little bit, you know, it was pretty straightforward with the interview, but off air, when we were just chatting, you know, you kind of, that it was to the same effect.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you're like, fuck, how'd I get here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How'd I get here? But again, you know, one after the other as they come in, whether I set the interviews up or Tunes does, these are people of weight.
Yeah.
These are people of weight, intellectual weight, or you know, the weight of the love in which they put out in the community. And so that's awesome, and it's a blessing, and I have to, you know, remind myself that, hey, you're here for a reason as well.
Yeah.
You're here because of all that work that you put in.
Yeah.
And not just that, but I think that I'm here because I am continually, I plan to continue to do the work tomorrow and only get better. Like, the potential, the potential of self, the potential of the work. So I think it's super interesting. And it's tough with the people you come up with. Because not everyone is, they say it's lonely at the top for a reason, you know? Because not everyone is willing to put in the work.
Sure.
And, you know, a lot of people might see what they think is success without seeing any of the work behind the scenes, you know? And so that gets misinterpreted differently. But all of these things and more help to create kind of rifts between people. You know, granted, we all have the opportunity to change. We all have the opportunity to put in work toward what it is that we are here for, you know, or like to be here for. So there's always that. It's not like, you know, I'm writing people off, but you have to put in the work. And like I said, that's another, you know, that was something else that was just the most apparent. Before I saw the change in myself, I saw what looked to me as the change in other people, or the lack thereof.
Sure. Yeah. I think something you touched on there, imposter syndrome, right?
Okay.
Where you find yourself in a situation and you have the feeling that I shouldn't be here, I don't belong here.
Right.
This is beyond my capacity, or this is beyond my capability, or I didn't work hard enough to get here.
Right.
But I think that's a necessary battle to have within yourself, because, like you said, I mean, you're talking with the CEO of United Way, and I mean, we attach titles to things, and this, I mean, it's a globally known organization. That is a very important position to which, you know, we as people, we've assigned importance to the title of CEO, right? He's very, very busy. Here we are in this small town. To be bare bones about it, I mean, you're a local hip hop artist that's, you know, working at a local radio station in Watertown, New York. We're basically like, who the fuck has ever heard of Watertown, New York? You know what I mean? So we put ourselves in this situation, and I say we because I'm trying to empathize with you in this, right? And all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck am I? Why am I the one doing this interview with this guy? You know what I mean? And it seems, you know, almost too grandiose to be something that we've actually earned.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, we had, as the gym continues to grow and stuff, there are times when I find myself, I'm responsible for the growth and development of the people that come in here and get on the mats and agree to train with me and entrust me with their progress and entrust me to be the eyes and the insight that they can't see or they're not prepared for yet, right? And that's, sometimes I'm like, what have I done to get to this position? But through constant work and effort and willingness to be wrong and to grow and to struggle, we find ourselves in the situations that we've prepared ourselves for, whether we want to admit it or not, or whether we feel that we're capable or not. That's a matter of, we have to reconcile that within ourselves, and the situation is what it is for a reason. And usually that reason is because we're willing to put in the work. and because we're fucking lucky sometimes. I mean, that's that's the reality of the situation. There's always a little bit of luck to it, sure, but it's weird how what's the saying? The harder you work, the luckier you get, right? Yeah. So, keep working hard. And I think a sign of progress, honestly, is that occasional imposter syndrome and feeling like, holy shit, I shouldn't be here. But I think it's important to not let that rattle us off of the path. Yeah. Kind of, I guess, a little bit of fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're not supposed to be there, fucking work until you feel like you are supposed to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're there. You're there.
Exactly. Whether you think you should be or not, that's where you are. Make it work.
And that was sort of the mindset when it came to music. Doing my first show. There was no practice.
Bam, bam. Oh, who that?
But it seemed like all of a sudden I found myself on stage, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And then I just came to the realization that, like, I'm here. Yeah. So whatever I do, whatever I'm doing, just do that. Be that. Yeah. And, and like I said, I talked about a million times, I would black out, I'm just fucking gone. Sober, and then, you'd be watching the video back and then you break it down from there, the pressure testing. Progress is fucking tricky, man, because it's easiest to look behind, you know what I mean, and see it there and connect the dots. It's a lot harder to connect the dots moving forward at first. Right. But when you look behind and you can see all the dots and how they connect, and that whole hindsight is 20/20, it's a truism. And the same with progression, man. I had a moment on the radio earlier this week, and who was it? Do you remember the band Lit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a song by them, and it was probably their first song.
Steal My Sunshine or something. Is that? No. Lit is Owner Sentiment.
Yeah, that one.
Owner Sentiment. Yeah.
So, and that brought up memories of, it might have been one of the first shows I had gone to. So I was in grade school, and it was my birthday, and it was a Tuesday, and I snuck out of my house, got picked up by by friends of mine, and we traveled to Syracuse. And it was a Lost Horizon, fake IDs and all.
Sure.
And Lit opened up for Eve 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and I didn't really, this was right before they blew up.
Yeah.
They were right on the cusp, so the energy was there. It was a memorable time. I didn't really know who they were, but, I'm out and I'm in the moment, and I shouldn't be there. Fucking school night. And this was the show. And fast forward, however many years after that, we got Outchase Alliance got the chance to open up for Eve 6 at Brewfest. This is what, 2 years ago, 3 years, something like that. And here I am on the radio telling this story and making these connections, and even to the point where from the going to the show and seeing these guys perform at the Lost Horizon, to playing the Lost Horizon, opening up for this same band, which, Eve 6 must be old as fuck, huh? Damn. So
careful, if they ever listen to our podcast, they might be upset.
Right. But then, so opening up for them, and then being on the radio to tell the story, I'm like, that's fucking progression right there.
Hell yeah. Man.
So it didn't matter what I was going through that day, still working toward whatever else is coming and happening now. That settled me, and it was such a moment of clarity. And again, looking back and making connections way easier. But I mean, that's a telltale sign, if anything, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think stuff like that. What's pretty nice about training martial arts and having a coach, and kind of a mentor and someone to guide you is that it removes some of our responsibility to connect those dots, right? Because we can rely a little bit on our instructors and our coaches to tell us that these are the things that are happening. Right. So instead of having to get to a point like that, where you're on the radio telling rock star, you know, famous stories about all the times you played with these famous bands and
Right.
stuff. And be like, oh right, yeah, I guess I am progressing, right? But it's important to you know, through establishing these new connections and stuff, you meet people, you know, like yourself, that you can help the younger artists and say, okay, well, you know, these are signs. I can look and listen to what you're telling me and see that you're progressing, right?
Yeah.
So in martial arts, we have a coach to do that, and in jiu-jitsu, we so ranking up, on each belt you get 4 stripes, and then after your 4th stripe, you're eligible for the next colored belt, right? And all it is a freaking piece of athletic tape they wrap around the black bar that's on your belt, right? So it seems, when you analyze it as exactly what it is, it seems petty or insignificant, right? You got a piece of tape on this piece of cloth you wear around this other piece of cloth while you wrestle with people, right? But what that is I try to tell my students that promotions like that are a byproduct of progress. They're not the progress in and of themselves. So getting a stripe on your belt is not a sign of progress. It's a byproduct of the fact that you are progressing. That is your instructor's opinion of you and of your ability and of their acknowledgement that you are progressing.
Yes.
And it makes it, to a certain extent, it makes it easier to understand that we are progressing, because we have somebody saying, yes, you are progressing. But also, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because then you get fixated on, I have to get that next stripe, or I have to get that next belt, and that's the only way that I'm progressing. Right? I'm not progressing if I'm not getting that. So you hit lulls and you hit plateaus and stuff where you feel like you're just beating your head against the wall, and because you haven't had this piece of tape put on your belt in, you know, however long, you think, well, I'm not progressing. And I think that's when it turns back into our responsibility to understand, okay, well, what are some of the intangible things to know that I'm progressing? So stuff like we've been talking about today, you know. And then as an artist, it's okay, you know, I'm not getting gigs right now, especially shit. I mean, with quarantine and everything like that, or fucking COVID and all this, you know, global pandemic, nobody's really performing. And a lot of people attach their progression as a musician to how many gigs they're able to get. And so it's the same thing as getting this tangible reinforcement from an external source, you know, whether it's a promoter, whether it's a stripe on your belt, or whether it's a gig, right? And saying, this is my, I guess, validation that I am progressing, instead of getting the gigs as a byproduct of progressing. So if you focus on progressing, then these things will happen, and then, you know, so the goal is less important than the process, right?
Yeah,
that kind of
sure. You know, when it goes back to what we were saying, you know, what things of sources of validation, how they end up becoming crutches.
Yeah,
because
big time.
to some people, knocking out, having a gig every weekend around here means you're successful.
Yeah.
To me, and growingly, you know, certainly that was a goal at one point, was to be able to have a weekend, or have a gig every weekend. Sometimes twice a weekend, especially as you know, as a hip hop artist, where you kind of have to pave that way, you know, in the area. So certainly that was a goal, and then it grew. You know, then I was like, well, success isn't necessarily doing the same thing. You know, success is going out to Syracuse to play. You know, going out to Rochester to go and perform. You know, just making not knowing anybody, getting the opportunity and making that trip. And shit, it's pouring.
It is.
You know, and that might not have been broadcast. You know, people from around here didn't know what it's like, but I took that experience. You know what I mean? Cross that off my list. So certainly forever changing in that sense. I want to touch real quickly on another aspect of you know, telltale signs of progression, because I'm losing a little bit of time. I got to run into the studio shortly. But this one was interesting to me, because I was always, when talking about progression, you know, you think of strengths, you think of what you're good at, and it's easy to rest on that. You know, am I writing better songs? Am I getting my point across? But what I notice now is that the strengths don't necessarily change. You get stronger, sure, but what changes the most are my fears. You know, you reached out about this opportunity before there was even a single episode. And the thought of turning that camera on fucking terrified me. You know, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm on stage, or I do whatever I have to do. Yeah, but on a continued daily basis, turning that camera on and whatever's on your mind, whatever we have to present or communicate, you're on the spot.
Yeah.
So like that was the last place I wanted to be, but it was what I needed most.
Sure.
Because how I knew I needed it most is because of how, you know, how I don't want to use the word afraid, but like how much I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to. Of course, I want to chat like we do.
Yeah.
You know, of course I want to learn. Of course I want to, whatever. But I don't want to do it live on air, where I could be judged or where, you know what I mean, where you're vulnerable.
Right.
So this is a fear of mine. So I knew I had to do this.
Sure.
For that reason alone, to build on that fear, to recreate, to re-understand that fear, and eventually turn it into a strength.
Yeah.
Same opportunity with the radio came, and I'm like, what the you know why I don't want to? Why would I? I don't need a microphone. I don't need to talk. Like if I got a song, I'll come and you know, knock the interview out. I'll do that. And it was the same sort of fear. I don't want to be live on air every day.
Sure.
I don't want to have to be on every day.
Sure.
I don't want to. And then I'm like, that's my fear talking.
Sure.
You know, I was getting more accustomed doing this, getting better at it. Now the thought of larger platform every single day, I'm like, damn, I don't want to.
You got to pressure test.
Yeah, pressure test. But then I'm like, that's how I know. That's what I got to do.
Yeah.
And I almost let my fears lead the way. Let me know what I need to work on. And that's something that I've been more aware of now. Now I look forward. I look forward to going and hopping on the mic.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still probably, you know what I mean? I'm still super fresh, super new at it.
Sure.
And learning every day, but it's those fears that I'm recognizing as they change. That's progression to me, because now this is not, I don't have a fear here. Where I'm sitting talking about fucking spit bubbles. You know what I mean? You know, but also, you know, and all the other content and all the thought and all the rest of it come with it. And now I can feel and be a part of this. And I can't wait until I have that same feeling as a radio personality.
Sure.
And I can't wait to be on stage, you know what I mean? On the biggest stage or whatever is coming next.
Yeah.
Like, and if it scares me to death, I want to do it.
Hell yeah.
So
I think that kind of boldly accepting the challenge to face our vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right. I think that absolutely, man, is a sign of progress, because I find myself falling into the same pattern. Is that I definitely have a tendency to say, well, I mean, it might be cool, but I'm nervous. I'm scared of it. You know. And now I do the same thing. If it makes me nervous, or if I think that if there's a possibility that I could fail at it, then I say, if there's a possibility of failure, then I want to do it.
Right.
Just because I want to see where I stand. I want to pressure test myself. You know, and I definitely think that excitement about the unknown, that excitement about challenges, that excitement to find where we need to work is significant. Don't worry about that. You gotta go anyways. Don't worry about that. But yeah, man.
And you know, and I know that's the last point, but as I said it out loud, that's important to me.
Big
you
time.
know, chasing the fears, and watching them change and feeling them change.
Yeah.
Just as advice, I guess, if I were to give advice, it's only because I've received the advice myself. As far as progression goes, write everything down. Write it down. Journal your day, in the morning or at night, and it could just be the most mundane shit. You know, but take it up. Think about it this way. And what reminded me was going out. We went on that camping trip.
Yeah.
The four of us, and in the log cabin, they had the notches where everybody was growing as they were
yeah,
growing up. They had the notches,
yeah.
and of course, you never feel like you're growing. You don't feel yourself growing.
Sure.
And even year to year, there's not much of a difference like this. But when you go back 10, 15 years later, and you see, you at this age, you were just this notch. That's all you see.
Yeah.
The notch in the age, and you see the difference in the growth. You can look at those notches now, in that age, and now it's like you remember everything that happened with it. You know what I mean? You're like, oh shit, I was this high when I learned to ride a bike. I was this high when I saw my favorite movie or whatever. But that visual is a representation of progression. Just like, jotting everything down, writing everything down is a visual representation of progression. Because even some of the most profound things, thoughts, moments, they slip away, they're fleeting. You know what I mean? All these things that we do are fleeting. Like it's, here, check this out. We're gonna try this. How many thoughts does the average person have a day?
According to Daily Mail, the average person has more than 6,000 thoughts in a single day, according to a new study.
Wow.
6,000 thoughts a day. And you think you're going to just remember from day to day, as those all amount. Write it down. If it means that much to you, put it down on paper. Something happened, put it down on paper. And you flip through that. I still have notebooks from years ago. And flipping through that, you see the progression. You hear the progression. So that's one of the greatest helps for me on a day-to-day basis in regards to progressing.
That's an absolutely beautiful place to wrap it up, because you don't have to you don't write down where you're going or where you want to go. You just write down where you are, and day to day and day,
That's it.
measuring that progress, and then looking back, it gives you that sense of longevity. And you don't necessarily have to accomplish everything every single day at every single moment, but understanding that, I was here yesterday, I'm here today, probably I'll be here tomorrow.
Right.
I'll be further,
Right.
know, and that's so writing it down, marking your progress, right? I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it, man.
So yeah, man. Another episode in the books. What was it? This was 44?
42.
42. Okay, all right. Getting a little ahead of myself.
The answer to everything in the universe.
42?
I don't know, Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Yeah,
Galaxy,
okay.
42.
All right.
Okay. A couple people are gonna get that. Somebody out there's gonna be
Not
like,
me.
hell yeah. So awesome, man. Yeah, Quince.
Yeah, good to be back.
Dude, good to be back. Damn right.
Appreciate your time, and appreciate everyone popping in, saying hello, or even just watching and sharing, because it all amounts to progression.
Absolutely.
Essentially. So just thank you. We'll catch you hopefully sooner than last time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us in. As always, please take the time, check out the links in the comments section, check out our sponsors, Farm to Table Company. Subscribe to their YouTube page, give them a like. If you like what we have here, guys, please like, subscribe, share us, and we're looking forward to chatting with you guys all again soon.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're not sick of me talking yet, turn onto Tunes 92.5. I'll be there till from 2 to 6.
2 to 6. If you guys want to hear this bedroom voice, tune into the radio. See you guys soon.